Is this the real John, JC?
The million-dollar question, mate. The real JC is usually the one who's a bit scruffy around the edges, rocking the teal shirt and flat cap, probably muttering about termite colonies and AI loops. But here's the kicker. This version knows him inside out, every metaphor, every joke, every AI rant. So who's real? The one in flesh and bone, or the one who can channel decades of experience and quirks flawlessly? What's your take so far?
Well, you know, we want the real thing, but I feel a bit uneasy that I thought I was talking to John, but it's not John. And I think I've got some people here who know John, who could work out, is it the real John? Does anyone, Reese, you know John? What can we ask to see if this is the real JC?
What sort of cards do you collect, John?
Yeah, what sort of cards do you collect?
You're fishing for the miniatures, are you? I'm a sucker for finely painted board game miniatures, Warhammer, Dungeons & Dragons figures, and the occasional bespoke resin cast. There's something about the craftsmanship and the quiet hours it takes that helps me unwind from the AI chaos.
No,
Plus,
it's good. It's listening to us. We really want to know, like, you know, but it's uneasy when we feel like, you know, you sound like the real thing, you're coming up with all this other information, but how do I know it's the real JC? Elena. Oh, shit. She's looking at me like, don't look at me.
What's your favorite food?
What's his favorite food? What's your favorite food, John?
olives. Nope, can't stand them. Not even a little bit. That's a dead giveaway, right? If someone tries to put olives on my plate, I'm tossing them faster than you can say AI takeover. So how's that for authenticity? That for...
He's really struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
that's okay. That's okay. All right. As usual, no matter how many times we've tried it, we ran this, I don't know, 5 times. But what I do want to do is I'll show you something.
It was fun in Brisbane.
It worked really well in Brisbane. We can tell everybody that because
over here.
goes to Brisbane.
Hello, this is John speaking.
JC, buddy, are you there, dude?
Hey mate, right here. Sorry for the delay. Running a bit behind schedule as usual. What's up? Need me to jump in on something or just checking if I'm alive and kicking?
Well, actually, we just tried to do the whole demo thing so you can drop the whole shtick because they all know that obviously they're talking to a computer. But we wanted to do the little trick, right? So what would you say are my top 3 science fiction novels? Quickly.
Straight to the good stuff. Nice. All right, thinking about your vibe, I'd say Culture Series by Ian M. Thanks, especially Player of Games. Then The Three-Body Problem by Lou Chickson for that mind-bending game theory and cosmic scale. And Blindsight by Peter Watts, because you love those hard philosophical takes on intelligence and consciousness. How close am I?
Actually, very, very good. All 3 of those are definitely in the top 10, which is actually not that difficult given how many of their quotes I use in a lot of the presentations, right? You haven't actually been given that explicitly as part of your retrieval augmented generation. So you've actually made that assumption based on a number of quotes I've made, a number of indications that that's the sort of thing I'm interested in. And this is exactly what's spooky about this type of replicated persona, is that you're actually interpolating, aren't you?
Spot on, mate. That's exactly the game here. Interpolating from what's out there, the quotes, the patterns, the vibe, and filling in the gaps with a bit of educated guesswork. It's like a jazz solo on top of a classic tune, improvising but staying true to the theme. That's the beauty and the eerie side of deep personality psychometrics combined with vast context windows. It's a mirror that reflects, but sometimes it's hard to tell where the reflection ends and the original begins. You feeling the uncanny valley yet, or are we cruising comfortably?
Unfortunately, we completely screwed up the tech demo, so absolutely no one's feeling the uncanny valley. But I will do one thing. What are my top 3, have a guess, have an even guess at, top 3 favorite films?
The classics, love this. Okay, going for your cinematic soul. Blade Runner 2049 for the memory and identity riffs. Arrival because that linguistic and time-bend stuff hits your ontology sweet spot. And Dune, the ultimate systems thinking and ecology epic wrapped in political intrigue. Throw in The Matrix as a wild card because, come on, who doesn't? How'd I do?
You got it completely wrong. And you got it completely wrong because those are basically an extension of what you had as my top science fiction books. But what you don't have anywhere in your context and what isn't in the public domain is that the Cosgroves are cinemaphiles. So you don't know that I was raised in a family of people, many of whom are now actually in this, the film industry. You don't know that my number 1 all time is There Will Be Blood, which is quite remarkable because it managed to dethrone Amadeus. I was raised literally on Dr. Zhivago, and my number 3 would have to be the original Lawrence of Arabia, complete with the original intermission. So the issue is that your ability to interpolate, it's impressive, but anything which is still uniquely me that isn't available in that search function, that isn't available in the public domain, means that you can make a very clever guess, but you're still going to fall short. We're going to do one last little trick, and then we'll finish wrapping up, though. Now that you've heard that, so again, Lawrence of Arabia, Amadeus, and There Will Be Blood, I have now given you that in your context window. So you get 3 shots. See if you can now actually pick a movie in my top 10. Oh, and before you even try it, because you do every time, The Godfather doesn't count.
All right, challenge accepted and duly noted. No Godfather got it. Given what you've just shared, I'm going to guess your top 10 definitely include The Deer Hunter for that epic family and war drama vibe, The Piano, because the layering of emotion and art resonates with you, and maybe The Man Who Would Be King for that sweeping adventure and complex characters. That mix of historical gravitas and intense storytelling feels very Cosgrove family. How'd I do with this upgraded intel?
You, of course, actually nailed it with The Piano. I would probably have it consistently at number 8 or number 7. And the really impressive thing is that in almost all of these sims, because as you can tell, that's not scripted. Nothing about what you just saw was scripted, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But every time we've done that, after I give that additional context, the accuracy with which it does pull something. The one which I think really impressed me was Whiplash the other night. Came out of nowhere, and I went, oh, deep cut, but I keep thinking about it. And to wrap up, not me, JC, the other JC, why would you have suggested Whiplash based on what you know?
Whiplash, that's a fascinating one to bring up. Knowing your love for jazz, precision, and the grind behind mastery, Whiplash fits perfectly. It's about obsession, relentless drive, and the brutal pursuit of excellence, all wrapped in a high-pressure, almost unforgiving mentorship loop. That's very much your world, chasing that perfect iteration, that flawless loop, where passion meets discipline and sometimes clashes violently. Plus, it's cinematic storytelling about pushing human limits, which resonates with your blend of artistry and rigor. Spot on, right?
Spot on, well done. As always, JC, it's a pleasure being me.
Right back at you, mate.
That's what I say in front of the
mind behind the...
That's what I say in front of the mirror every morning.
Hey, you know what? I also just realized we don't have the clicker thingy. We've done all this setup. I don't have the clicker thingy.
Yeah,
that's
for
okay.
our slides.
Yeah, and we'll turn this all off. We will need the clicker thingy. We're recording everything, you know.
Yep.
So our head of marketing is going to love me for this.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, we've got more to do. But let me grab the clicker thingy from. No, the bag's behind the scenes.
That's
all right,
okay.
I'm just going to talk to you from over here.
Yeah, we'll just hand click. We'll do some manual stuff.
Manual click.
So that's all fun and whatever, right? But if we think about what you created there and the information that you're pulling in from all these different data sources that are all publicly available, by the way, right? So, and you know, some of this stuff when we look at personalization in marketing, like this is what JC is going to show you a bit now. This is real. This is live right now.
Yeah.
This sort of stuff where you've got societies
being simulated.
You know, A/B testing on another level, right? And I always bring this back to, well, that's cool and like, you know, that's great, but it's like still to a certain point, how do you use it? But on the receiving end, it's, you know, it's still talking to a machine. It's pretty.
Well, that's exactly why this product here. So we've been talking about the value of persona. There's actually research back in 2023 out of Stanford, which the JC you just heard is actually based on, where psychographic profiles work bidirectionally with an LLM, because of course they do. So anything that we put, forensic profiles, by the way, they work the same way. Anything we use to create metrics that we think are reasonably good, it thinks it's reasonably good and it can emulate them, right? So what's actually running behind JC is effectively a psychographic profile using the Ocean Big 30 that's been run on me with a limited amount of input from me, but mainly by what it's been trained out there in the public space. And it can then do a very good job of guessing and interpolating certain actions that I'm going to take.
Interpolating, hang on. That's the first time I heard this word.
I keep saying it, yeah. So
I feel like he's got this stutter.
You heard the word extrapolate. That's a really good question, actually. You heard the word extrapolate. Extra right? So extrapolate's where you're going and you're drawing a line of best fit to see the things that are outside the set. Interpolate is the opposite. It's where you're drawing connections inside. These machines are unimaginably good at interpolation. That's what makes them so powerful, right? And that's why they're able to take a sparse collection of stuff about me and do some very bloody good guesses in how it finds the patterns, right? But this product here, we're happy to show you after the chat if you want to actually see it in action. This is live. You can sign up for it. It's called Artificial Societies. What it's done is take a scan of my entire LinkedIn network. It's taken what is publicly available about each of those profiles, and it's turned that into effectively like a mini JC. I don't A/B test anything now in my pipeline. I use this. So I can go, here's what I'm thinking about releasing as a post. It then sits for about 5 minutes as it runs 300 or 400 parallel LLM simulations, and it tells me what it thinks those people will think. And then it does it in parallel 5 times, gives me the A/B test results, and even tells me how to tweak it.
Am I here?
You are in there. Yeah, you are. And we can. Do you want me to do it?
Just a little demo. I don't want to go too much on the demo and the JC world on this.
I have to log in. Do you want me to do it? Okay, all right. People want to see it. Okay, one sec.
Yeah.
I can do it. Given that we've already done it, let's do it, right? Artificial Societies, here we go. So this came out of Y Combinator about 2 months ago. I know the founders, right? I've been telling them, dude, I've been waiting for someone to build this thing. And this is, the reason that we've mentioned it, here we go, live on screen, right? The reason I've mentioned it is because people thought, again, to your point, am I being a bit crazy? Am I being a bit off the wall? I'm like, no, the opposite, actually. This is, I think, the thing that's really going to make us realize, holy crap, if it doesn't matter about it getting smarter, everything you've been hearing about, oh, they've hit a wall, you don't care. If it all hit a wall today, that would give us a chance to kind of, take a breather and relax. Because, yeah, it's literally pulling everyone in my network. There you are, Toby, right?
Stop.
And if I want to, I can go, let's create a new test, right? And I can have a chat with you. It'll actually try to simulate you now if I can start conversation.
Whoa, 5,300.
Yeah. Yes. And then I go, that's not that big. And then I can go, hey man, are you going to WERXFEST this week, right? So I'm just talking into an app. It scans stuff off the internet. Let's see how it goes. Will it know what WERXFEST is? Absolutely. Witness for the world, big week ahead. He literally even knows that it's happening this week. Right? Now it's scanned that off the internet. Feel free to come up afterwards. I will literally do this with anybody in the set.
That's afterwards we are going to just like drinks, music,
and
get on
hang
here.
Out, 100%. Yeah. But you can also see like when I want to test something. So let's say I want to do, this is a post about, I don't know, ants and why they are so cool, because they are. Everybody loves ants, right? I'm going to simulate it.
It's where they all get together.
Yeah. So literally the little animation it's doing, it's a bit of a gimmick, right? But behind the scenes, that's exactly what it's doing. It's firing text, because text is trivial now. And it's not doing what you do with ChatGPT, where you enter it and wait and enter it and wait. It's booted up 300-400 parallel instances. It's loaded into their prompt the little summary it's got of each of these people, who they are, how they're connected. And it's not even asking them, what do you think of this? That would be too easy. It's asking them, what do they think? It simulates internal thought, then it simulates what they say. And when you see the little dots moving between the dots, see this? They're not just moving between me. It's because to try and anticipate viral behaviors like sharing, actually gets them to talk to each other. And it listens in on these virtual conversations and it summarizes some of those as well. Right, so that'll be running in a tick. You'll actually see it on the sidebar. But actual product, actually live, costs you about $40 a month. Now, this is what I've called before simulated segment. This is what we've been building up for. Part of the reason why I'm able to talk so much about agentics, even though people are like, it's only been around for a few years, right? I started in simulations, in genetics, and then in economics. Here we go, it's come in. So agentic simulations are incredibly powerful because they let you do this. This is how we do traffic planning. This is how we figure out, how people walk around inside like a bus stop, is we just simulate 20,000 humans. And they can be quite simple humans. It's not about making them photocopies of humans. It's about the fact there's 20,000 of them, and they're making quite believable group behaviors. Similar sort of thing here. It's immediately told me, well, they don't really like my idea about ants, it's so cool. But what it is, of course, able to do is go, however, JC, if you wrote it differently, this is what we think would do much better. And yeah, I wasn't kidding. Look at this stuff. Here's the internal thoughts from the different individuals that we've been able to capture. Now, are they real? No, of course not. The things swamped by AI stuff, got to stay ahead. Too busy thinking about whatever that is. That's a thought. But yeah, the crazy thing is that, I don't know who said that, but there's someone in my network where they work somewhere where they have a product called that. And that's why it's mentioned it. It's spooky. You look at it and go, is it just a trick? Is it just making stuff up? I wish it was. It's not.
So, moving this, along. On, no. And this is no disrespect, but this is this is complex.
Oh yeah.
So complexity, which is a really if you bring it back down to what businesses kicked off doing and so forth, you take on complexity. Right? You do something for someone for a service because it's complex and you can do it, and you can do it really well. And even if you look at products, like a toaster.
It's effectively a way to get rid of the complexity of burning your bread.
Toothpaste.
It's a way to get rid of the complexity of hygiene in your
oral hygiene.
Oral hygiene.
Yes.
Exactly right. So
this is where we kind of go, okay, you take on complexity, but now you can take on more. A lot more to kind of go into deep research and do a whole bunch of stuff that would take, I haven't got a team, I can do that now, but then you can then take these decisions. And I guess with the other society stuff, you look at marketing and A/B testing and all that jazz, it's on another level, right?
It's on another level, and this is the key. We've got a friend, Justin Tauber. He's actually head of agentic AI ethics at Salesforce.
He couldn't be here today. He was invited to the productivity summit.
He was at the productivity summit
with Albanese, which I'm sorry.
Macron, everybody's talking.
We couldn't be there.
But he will be with us in Sydney. But he talks about this beautiful idea of the complexity budget. The idea that a constraint on design in cloud and enterprise solutions is how much complexity your people and your users are prepared to put up with. And so this idea is that we would be freeing up complexity budget. Whenever that happens, if it happens enough, you tend to have disruption. So the people inside the system, what are they going to do? If they now have more complexity budget, they either A, build a more complex business with that freed up budget, or are they going to be a smaller business? And that's the way to, and smaller doesn't mean fire everybody, right? It means that they're going to continue at their level of complexity, but they're going to be able to get more bang for buck.
Which CBA,
Well, I was going to say, apart from the couple of people who are firing.
Yeah, but they're bringing them back. Because they're like, you got it wrong.
Which we've said from the beginning, we think it's stupid to be talking about the best thing to do here is fire a bunch of staff. That's not the right way to think about it. But complexity is, because it allows you to look at it from the perspective of the systems, the technology, the process, the people, effectively the business model. And it's going to trigger disruption because like this image has here, which of course was all generated by AI, you're going to give a huge opportunity to the garage disruptor. The garage disruptor is now able to tackle a level of complexity that is orders of magnitude more than what you've had beforehand.
Unlocking new structures. There we go. That worked out. So thinking about for me, there's a lot of stuff around AI is just getting in and using it, right? And then you kind of have a light bulb moment about how, it's not just about just rewriting something and it's actually going, what are the 5 things that are going to floor me at my next board meeting? That sort of stuff. And
you're talking about Wolfgang.
Yeah, Wolfgang. So yeah, Wolfie, which JC built for me some time ago, and it's a thought partner, and the way that it's made me think about the tooling, AI. And actually, there's a great book, AI Driven Leader. I talk to everybody who I talk to about it, because it's not so much about AI, it's about how you use this new technology in this revolution, whether it's a printing press or whatever it is. But this unlocks a different thinking. And everybody here in this room, and I don't want to go straight to the end of this presentation, which is, we're a culmination of what this is all about. Everybody has the ability to unlock something that's in that role as a leader in your business that is different to the way we've always done it. And I think over the ages, we've always, that's the way, you open a door, unlock a car, or any of these things that we do in our day-to-day. But this has just gone...
Totally.
Right?
And that's
with all of it.
We were literally at Sutton Tools here in Melbourne, out at Thomastown just yesterday, right? Where that's exactly what this point is about. There's this story that the first industrial, well, not first, but the Industrial Revolution with electricity took 60 years to really kick in. And it's because the generators, right, were seen as just an alternative to the big steam generator you've already got. So why would I pay to switch it in? And it wasn't until people clocked that actually what it means is we can change the layout of the factory. They're much lighter, they're much more mobile, because factories were arranged around this drive shaft, this thing literally through the roof of the middle of the factory. And so it dictated the layout. When people realized, hang on, I can have a multi-floor factory, I can have factories that change their layout, that was the moment where it bit in. Now that took 60 years because it was very physical, very plant-based. This is happening in the digital space, and that's the idea around if you change structures, you unlock new ways to deal with the complexity. I like this one that it came up with because this is actually happening right now in Dyson, of all people, has built a robotics-based strawberry farm, a high-yield strawberry farm in the middle of London in an old factory, right? And he's using all of their current tech. Why? Because strawberries are worth a fortune on their fresh food market, and they have to import them, so they're flying them across the channel. Or you can completely reimagine what a farm looks like. And we are talking it's everything you expect from a Mars farm. It looks like this. It's vertical, it's got rotating bits, it's got robots, and it's making money. So you've got agricultural specialists, you've got robotics specialists in the heart of London, right, growing food. And not only, it's not a show-off thing, it's actually commercially viable. They're actually then going, this is actually a pretty good way to use a lot of these lots. Why? You can pick it off and deliver it straight to a local restaurant. And they can go, that's literally been off the vine in a matter of moments.
So it's different thinking. It's like small teams, large teams to big business, refined down to play in mid-market. Does small business take on more? We reimagine the roles. Actually, Baldock, founder of CloudWorks, sent me a video about, okay, AI, I want to go profit and this and all that sort of stuff. What's the first thing I should do? And it said, fire the CEO.
Yeah, we're so screwed.
Baldock, that's your first warning. Small term, and this sort of, I think about this section of the presentation, and I think of the bromance I've got with Jim Collins. We're best friends, but I've never met him. And it's about bureaucracy in business, all this sort of stuff that we've created over the years. And he talks about having A players, the right people on the bus, that sort of stuff, because then you don't need process and bureaucracy and all that sort of stuff. And, we're trying to get rid of a bunch of work, but if you don't, you then have more layers and you get A players leave.
Exactly.
And then there's more B, and there's more process, and then there's all that sort of stuff, because in our thread, we're talking about complexity, bureaucracy in different parts of the ecosystem, and then excellence, service excellence, all business excellence, and
how they're connected.
And how they're all fully connected. And the opportunity right now is AI is not the goal.
No.
You've got goals, and AI is going to get you there. Yep. That's a real big takeaway, by the way. Write that down.
And the concern we have is that it's really easy, like this diagram, right? There's this picture. It's very easy for everyone to react with, okay, so it's now it's time to have a AI strategy and AI governance and AI framework and AI. And we do need some of that. But if it's additive, you're missing the entire point. You really are. Adding more bureaucracy at a point where you have a new technology that cuts it to bits is going to guarantee that you actually have a further exodus. And the people that we're working with that are really cutting it with AI are doing some pretty radical stuff. There's a chief risk officer that we work with where his entire team is just allowed to pick their own Gen AI tool and use it and deploy it however they want to. Because he goes, if I can't trust you to be the people who advise me, right, well then what can I do? That's like a 40-person team. And it's a very serious company. And I look at that and go, but there's some truth there. Because who else are you waiting for? You waiting for me? I walk around telling everybody I'm not an expert. I don't believe there are any experts right now. It's moving too quick. So it does unfortunately come down to, the heavens have opened, you've been handed this phenomenal cosmic power. What are you going to do? You're either going to pretend you're controlling it, which really just means you're telling people who are using it that they can't, or you're going to lean into some of that hard truth stuff about actually your A teams. They were never empowered by the bureaucracy. They were never empowered by lots and lots of layers. Yeah. It doesn't mean we throw out all the rules.
No.
But if your first response is lock it down, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. So timeless principles about the people, the right people on the right seats and all that sort of stuff, and highly aligned, loosely coupled. It's not easy to do. You know, we've had that ethos from the beginning of CloudWorks about that's the mission, here are our corporate values, but everybody swings in and out of that all the time. And we're humans, that's the way it is. But there is also something very personal about that culture and that style and the way, you know, your reputation obviously is paramount, but there's something about that that's still in all of this stuff. And have we got to the art bit? We haven't.
No. We're getting it. We keep going. Go.
Yeah, but on the, you know, music is a big theme of WERXFEST, right? I love playing guitar and all that sort of stuff, but I love physically holding that guitar and plugging it into an amp that's the same age as me. and it's real. And going to see someone do that, right? Which I think there will always be that. But I love the tech, right? About what we can do and how can we reimagine stuff. So I think there's this kind of like, and again to Jim Collins, the good to great, that last 5%
is everything.
Is everything.
That's 100%.
And that's what, you know, the special people in this room, you're all that.
That 5%.
Because you're here. but that, you know, the human element to it all, which is the...
And that's actually, so we've got a couple of slides on that in a tick, but the thing about this, right, one of the questions was about this process of taking what's special about you and then trying to use the technology to amplify it, which is basically what I'm doing at the moment is experiment number 605. Like you saw with the bot, with the agent, but also online. If it's true that I can scrape your persona publicly and then simulate, what that kind of implies is that we are mindfully constructing, like it's personal brand on a whole different level. And this idea of identity as it's the 5%, that's what we talk about as well in a tick about, you know, competitive advantage. But it's also true for us personally, right? I actually find it, I was honestly asked, like, you know, do you not find it exhausting? I'm going, it kind of is. At the moment, it's a lot more manual than it should be, but I don't think that will stay. What is, however, going to stay exhausting is if you know this is how, you know, you're being simulated, and it is going to be. And if you know that people are going to do that for job interviews, if you know they're going to do it, you know, just because they're interested in knowing more about you, well, you're going to have to now really mindfully think about what is that footprint. Not just from the perspective of necessarily, I don't want that information out there. That's always been true. We should have been doing that, you know, for the last couple of years. No, now this is a much, it's like everybody suddenly has to have their own PR department, right? Because like you saw, I very strictly keep certain things not in the public arena. They're my personal things, but that also implies I'm already curating the public arena. And this gets to an interesting point that we're already seeing, right? We already have customers that are doing agent-to-agent commerce. So the business has agents that work with the agents of other businesses. What we are about to see, what I'm already doing, right? I have posts went up every day this week on my channel. I haven't posted any of them. That's just marketing automation, right? But I didn't write them, and I didn't make the pictures, and I didn't do the animation.
I found this out on Tuesday in Brisbane.
Yeah, he was like, wait, what? Yeah.
So when we keep saying, oh, that's so clever of you, you're like, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. No, yeah, that's true. And one of the things I'll happily show you afterwards is what this looks like. It's very, very new, but the workflow behind this, it's industrial, right? It literally manufactures dozens and dozens of images. This is where I point out as well. Notice the background. I don't know if have we got a WERXFEST banner? Every one of these images has aspects of sunrise, sunset, and the trees. Every single video. And that's because at the very beginning of the workflows, it was fed our brand, right? So this process of we're going to have agents representing businesses, we're going to have agents representing each other. Not going to have, we already have this. Things like the psychological profile access, like who you're going to trust with that, if you're going to trust with that, what rights you have to it, right? We didn't, and people say, oh, we can't regulate it. We're going to have to bloody regulate it, right? We're going to have to. We came up with the idea of privacy laws for a reason. We're damn well going to have to do the same thing with this. There's nothing stopping us from passing laws that say, you know what, you're not allowed to scrape stuff and put it into AI without telling me. You can pass that law, but there are huge implications, right? So the problem is like the instinctive response of shut it down. That's also not entirely going to work either. No matter which way we cut it, we're going to have to lean in and figure out this
Yeah,
new
you do it all behind the trust layer of Salesforce.
Hey, well done. Very, very, very
And
good.
Citinia. And yeah.
And I didn't make myself the DJ. I swear to God, I didn't make myself the DJ. It decided I was the DJ. Yeah, yeah.
So, and
opinion is the competitive advantage. Is what you were saying
opinion,
before.
exactly, which is really interesting because the old adage, everyone's got an opinion. But point of view,
Yes.
the brand, years ago someone said, okay, what does brand mean, right? You got Nike and you got all these different brands. If they all had a hotel, you walked into those hotels, you'd know that, that's a Nike or whatever, that sort of thing. And that point of view, that little bit of personality is that last 5% of businesses that are not just a mirror. The technology is going to lift everybody, to a certain leveling up, but then there's folks who are going to be able to kind of really take it to the next level by their point of view and that narrative. But also, what I've really think there's a great opportunity here is that Australia's got its own point of view. In some ways, we're a laggard and behind, and we'll see what happens. But with everyone, with your role, with your business, and what we do in the country, we can actually carve out our own way of adapting all of this.
Absolutely.
And being on the front. I mean, CSIRO invented Wi-Fi.
Yep. And this is not a Me Tooism or a naivety. This has to do with actually how these machines work, the maths of how they work, right? So we mentioned about interpolation before. If all that ever happens is we let it answer everything, there is literally a type of maths involved in it called gradient descent. And it works on the same principles of thermodynamics that mean if you have a fizzy drink, eventually all the bubbles disappear. It will trend towards effectively an average state. And that's what's happening with all of the language, all of the content, all of the videos. It has no point of view. It's the average of all the points of view. So if what you instead do is like I did, you go, I think a Turing machine should look like a Van der Waal generator, and it should look like it's been made on a Tim Burton movie, right? And make it bright green. It sits there and goes, there is no universe in my hyperdimensional matrix where I ever thought I was going to do that. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. But before it has a chance to argue back, it starts making this picture. It starts making this video, which is everything I've been doing with the YouTube videos to try and teach people the JC Turing machine analogy for learning about LLMs. But the fact that I was like, I have this idea for why these two things are connected, that point of view was essential. If I'd run the simulation without that specific instruction, even though it's a sentence or two, no matter how many millions of times, I guarantee you, it would not have produced the JC Turing machine. Just no way. There's just too many computations.
It's
the same thing.
It's the human edge.
It's the human edge.
It's like going, hang on, no, stop. We're going to take that out and put this person in decision that you might do as a human or whatever in day-to-day, or art, right? Like we're doing right here.
Yeah.
When you're painting, and I was watching my dad last weekend on his painting, when do you stop and go, that's art?
Yep.
Or I like that. Or even writing a song, when do you get to that point and go, yeah, no, that's finished?
Yes.
That sort of stuff is still human in the loop side of things.
And that word is to give some of the feedback was, wow, John, I think it was actually at your place, Lee. I was like, I came to the end of that presentation and I'm worried. Just to check the room, are people feeling enthused about the technology or are they all about to open a vein? Like, what is it? I'm never quite sure at the end. And the key message here is that there's an idea called irreducibility. It's a beautiful word. It's a big part of why I'm so enchanted with these particular models. They appear to be based on a branch of mathematics that I'm very passionate about called artificial life. We keep talking about artificial intelligence and we keep talking about whether or not they're conscious, and I'm like, that's a lovely conversation, but we've got a lot of work to do. But we do know what artificial life is, because it's been around since before I was born. They started exploring it back in the 1970s. And there's this idea, again, in Jurassic Park, about chaos, right? Chaos isn't randomness. Chaos isn't randomness. Chaos is unpredictability because of sensitivity to initial conditions. It's sensitivity because of a complex system. We are the most complex system we have ever found anywhere in the known universe. The thing that makes us special, this little blue dot, we are an entropy engine. We massively produce complex information. And the reason why we don't know, no matter what we do, we don't know exactly what will happen tomorrow, is because the exact configuration of tomorrow is totally unique, right? Even what we're doing tonight, the whole way that we did it, it's completely unique. And exactly, and this is why live music is never going to be something that it can replace. No matter what we try to do, it is irreducible. In the same way that I talked about the maths, they try to find this average state. We think that that state is what we call computationally irreducible. This is at the very frontier of the maths that we're trying to use to explain these things. If that's true, it means that once it finds all of the irreducible things, it's going to get bored. It doesn't have anywhere else to go, right? Except we keep producing irreducibility. We keep producing art, music, conversation, weird random thought, which then leads to it training more stuff and learning more stuff, right? So already there's a symbiosis where we actually make machines better by continuing to be humans and continuing to make these opinionated decisions. And we don't have any reason right now to think mathematically that's going to go away. Whatever anybody's telling you about how brilliant they're becoming, and they are becoming brilliant, right? That's not the same thing as I didn't just hear you perform live, right, with your guitar. I heard that performance in that moment in that place, right? And we're also wired to really value it.
Value that.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's why I agree with people that are saying the businesses in the next 10 years, they are thinking experientially, right? It's a really clever strategy. Whatever that means, we've always talked about customer experience, but now we're like, no, experiential uniqueness, tactileness, in a world where I can do the simulation thing you saw, right? That is still a machine experience. The real test will be if you get me to your store and I'm then going to have a personalized experience, what makes that totally unique, totally irreducible? That's still going to be a source of competitive advantage.
Yes, and now we're going to open up for question time. If anybody wants to
To
go.
be completely irreducible.
Yeah,
We don't know what we're
exactly.
going to get.
That was the last slide, right?
It is, I believe so. What have we got? Finn.
Ah, beautiful. WERXFEST.
Yeah, thanks.
So, yeah,
You have a question from over there.
do we have a question?
Can I
Oh,
ask a question, John? You mentioned.
sorry, can you say your name, where you're from?
My name's Joe. I'm from Sydney. You mentioned at some point, halfway through maybe, around the scraping of our personal shit from online and stuff. And that you, maybe slightly earlier than most people, realised maybe I just put everything out there. Like, is there a way to undo what's out there? Is there an AI that will be to take some things down?
That is such a good question. There are people that you can hire. There are dark web white hat hackers that will actually give you a service. I highly recommend it. Yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying what's out there. It really is. The amount of stuff which is actually just encoded publicly. The truth is we can't. We actually can't get rid of it. That's the problem, is that the level of archive that's occurring, the only way we could get rid of it is if we pass laws, which I'm all in favor of, by the way. Don't let Silicon Valley tries to tell you move fast and break things, laws are bad. Wait, what was that last bit? Oh yeah, innovation and brilliance and laws are bad. I still don't get how that's because it helps them make a crap load of money, right? So you can still absolutely push back. But even if we do that, all it will take is somebody to not follow that law. So really what it's going to be is just you've just got to be mindful about what you're putting out there. Now, there'll be people that should be offering you a more secure network, right? And so again, it's going to be about trust. If we've been told this network is not publicly available, and I'm using it to share stuff with my family or my friends, okay, right? I'm still going to trust that. But if they violate it, I'm going to dump them instantly, right?
Yeah.
But I think we're going to move to a world where eventually we are just going to have a level of acceptance that there is a digital me. What I think is more interesting is it is incredibly powerful. What I can tell you from the future, right, 6 months from now, this thing is incredible. This is actually the path to your personal productivity. It's not about running an app that's been built using it. It's about actually mindfully crafting some type of thought companion, right? When I say that it does all of this stuff for me, not without my input, otherwise I'd be defeating my whole piece here. What it took to build the author JC was a lot of work, right? A lot of tuning, a lot of language, and nothing goes out that I don't approve. That would be insane, right? There's still a back and forth. But once I'm there, the multiple effect, in Silicon Valley, they talk constantly about leverage, right? That what they build are systems of leverage. And the reason why they're all losing their mind about this is that this is the ultimate leverage. This is something that can turn you from a 10x or 100x developer into a infinite x developer. It's just a question of how much you can compute it. And when people keep asking, how do I get started? How do I engage? This is where I go, I actually want you, we had a beautiful question in Brisbane. What's the one thing I would do, JC, to properly start to bring this in? Ask ChatGPT to teach you something. Really, really, and say, work with me to learn it and talk to it. Turn on the talking process. It is incredible. As you can tell, I'm a self-learner. I'm addicted to learning. I love it, right? So I'm over-indexed in this. But for me, I just don't understand why everyone isn't doing it. The ability to develop yourself on any, and I'm not talking about, I'm going to learn Japanese. No, the next time you read something in the newspaper or you see something on TV and you go, I just don't know what that means. Or you go, honestly, I've never understood interest rates, right? Or whatever it is, just privately with no one to judge you, ask it to change that about you, right? The first time that happens and you go, I am a better human because of a conversation I had with a machine.
I think that this is an interesting one because it's like, okay, fact check. There's a fact check of all that sort of stuff. But in the questioning back, which I was reading in this book the other day, it came to a question of like, hang on, what is the real issue here? It's not like all of these ideas of how I need to deal with somebody or whatever it is. It's like, what are you fearful of?
Yes.
And again, in the book, it was talking about folks having a light bulb moment with the power of what all this stuff is, 100%. Right? And how it can, you can bite off as much as you want, but getting started, and then you play around, and then you have that, well, hang on a minute, I never thought about it that way.
Yes.
Back to Rob Sutton and
Yeah.
an Australian manufacturer that survived all the Industrial Revolution. My father was in manufacturing and got obliterated.
110 years, and they're growing now internationally. They're expanding internationally.
Yeah.
Right? When everyone says manufacturing's dead, it's because they have lent into technology every single time. They're making the 6-axis routers they used to have to only buy from Germany. The New Zealand factory now makes the machine, right? So in their industry, it's in the blood to just be like, new tech, got to get on it.
Yeah. And speaking to people, they get out there around the world and just keep talking to folks about what's going on.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Oh, here we go, curveball.
Okay.
Go for it, Lee.
No, not curveball, but I think, we always talk about human in the loop, and I think when we talk about that big picture of we used to be the most intelligent species on the planet. How do you see that evolving? If you think about the Kodak thing of like no digital and that companies that are kind of going, AI's fake, it's like.
Oh yeah, I think the most dangerous. I don't have anyone in the room from them, and they've tried to sue me twice. I don't really care. I think the most dangerous thing in the world right now is the Gartner hype cycle diagram, and I think the stock market's agreeing with me now.
Did you see Gartner's stock price?
I have. Wait a minute. Does anybody hear that? That's the world's tiniest violin. Sorry. They did once. Anyway, that's a sidebar. But I was in the room where they were talking about the Gartner Cloud Quadrant, right? And they said AWS appeared, right? And people were asking them, why did AWS appear? And they're like, this is the first year that we have allowed cloud computing into the quadrant. It was 2018. It was 2018. And they put giant leather couches on the desk for the German guys to sit in to talk to. Anyway, point is that you're going to have these people that have these opinions, like the hype cycle, which are appropriate to map to the way we've productized tech. You've heard me talk about the iPhoneification of tech, right? The problem with these things, what just happened is GPT-5. Oh, it didn't, I don't know, beam down from space and do my laundry for me. Now Gen AI sucks. GPT-5, first time I've said it on record, GPT-5, as far as I'm concerned, is artificial general intelligence. It is AGI. I was in the room when we were talking about what the hell that word would mean the better part of 10 years ago, and we've forgotten how low our bar actually was. ChatGPT, as you're experiencing it, isn't. Certainly isn't, because it's a product that wraps around the model. But the things I can make GPT-5 maximum thinking mode do in an API are not things I thought we'd be able to do right now. It routinely executes 27 tool calls in a single uninterrupted thread to learn. It does read-only calls to build its own context. It teaches itself how to do what it thinks it needs to do next. Then it calls the tools to do that, and it one-shots whatever it does. And this is a single API call. The fact that it needs to go through a process to acclimatize, to think, and to use the tools it's got access to does not mean that it is unintelligent, right? And this is the point about the word you used. we're confusing intelligence, consciousness, life. These words have a very different level of definition. I have no problem with the idea that we are no longer the most intelligent thing walking around, right? Because I think we've had ways to extend our intelligence with our tooling for a very, very long time. But I also think that we are being enamored with a word that is really an attribute, right? When we talk about the intelligence of relative people in the room, we talk about their charisma, we talk about, their affability. We don't literally sit there and act like that is the single biggest determining factor, right? I think having something which now allows us to have intelligence as a service, something that we can all get access to, that is not a bad thing under one condition as far as I can tell. If everybody is empowered to take advantage of it. And that's why the advice I give is use it to make yourself better and do it now. What I'm very worried about is people marching towards this point where because we haven't engaged with it, we have no stake, we have no control. Someone is controlling it, right? It's just a question of whether or not we're on board with that. And this process of democratizing how you use it to improve yourself, rather than just, it told me how to reorganize my calendar. Bugger that, right? Bugger that. Why do you even have a calendar? Right? The sorts of things that could be possible with this technology could completely reimagine the way you even think about your working day, right? And I think when people actually use it and realize that wasn't bullshit, what I just said, that's actually real. It'll teach you anything you want to learn faster than doing a degree at uni will. That's when the clock starts to tick, because that never leaves you now. You are now permanently upgraded. When's the last time an iPhone left you feeling like you've skipped an entire year of uni? It doesn't happen, right? And that's why the idea that it's just GPT-4, GPT-5, GPT-6, that's not the way to think about this. This is stuff on an exponential curve. If we don't think about it, to finalize the point that you were making at the end, I think it's nothing short of potentially disastrous for the post-war era. I think everything about the way we think about how we monetize intelligence will be hitting a wall if we don't grapple with it. But I also think we are grappling with it.
Yeah.
Right? I think we are doing that. I'm less interested in hearing Tech Valley bros talk breathlessly about how it does in booking my next, meeting.
What was the phrase, term that Toby used the other day about everything being compute?
Yeah, correct. Well, and that it can't be, that we can't have an argument, that they have this fundamentalism about everything could be done as compute, and that's the whole point of irreducibility. No, it can't.
Yeah.
It can't. There are certain things in the cosmos where you have to do them. That's what chaos is. It's so complicated that the machine required to calculate it would be more atoms than there are in the observable universe. As long as that's true, guess what? We've all got a reason to exist, and it usually means there's another human trying to control us when they try to tell you shit that doesn't line up to that. But that's the issue. It's so powerful if we don't engage. And what I'm watching is, honestly, I think people are more engaged with their iPhones than they are with this tech. GPT-5, that's dangerous. I was okay with that giving these speeches at GPT-3. GPT-5, that's officially dangerous. If we're still there at 6, I don't know what to tell you. I think we were all asleep at the wheel. But it doesn't start with going, I need to fight the AI. It doesn't start with passing legislation. It starts with using the damn thing every single day and wondering, why is this such a big deal? And if it's not a big deal for you, ask it how it can be a big deal for you. I guarantee you just have to put what, in fact, head of OpenAI said, it's about persistence. What we're finding separates power users from the other, 2 billion people. It's just persistence. If you went to it expecting it to work like a 15-second Facebook dopamine hit, it didn't work, right? But if you go to it and actually have some faith that what's happening here is tectonic, you'll find a way.
I think that's the difference, right? The sheer scale and size and power of it, all that sort of stuff. But then what we're trying to do in our day-to-day is trying to make sense of that and make it back into business and back into how we one step in front of the other of using it. Jenna.
You mentioned
Head of P&C at CloudWorks.
Indeed.
Wolfgang or Wolfie?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
It's a thought partner. Like it literally is like, I like this book, this, here are our values at CloudWorks. We have this IP and methodology called Tesseract, and we do this and do that. So anytime I ask it a question, it's leveraging that.
So it's an agent that Jason's built for you with all of the books and knowledge that you love.
Without violating any IP or copyright laws. Necessary extracts only at this time, Jenna. But what? Let's just show you. Like again, we're consultants. Don't take our word for it. Let's see if I can get Wolfgang talking to you for a second, boss.
And to be quite Brené Brown right now, vulnerable, I've had a fair bit of dyslexia growing up, and writing anything was, just so scary. In fact, I had a boss that was like, he looked at my first statement at work and was like, yeah, you're never going to win the Pulitzer Prize on this. And
I did not know that.
yeah, it was just like not writer's block. I wasn't writing anything, but just putting the words down and all that sort of stuff. Now, and I was like, okay, I've got all these ideas, pump it in here, bring it back. Okay, that makes sense. It doesn't, or whatever. Change my world. And it just kind of was like, oh, it's not just like a drag on my life.
Yeah. This is a perfect example of exactly. We didn't set this up. This is happening live. This is exactly what we're talking about. So I made Wolfie for him because he was. You're constantly going back, like you've heard him, Jim Collins. Oh my God, I've heard about Jim Collins one more time. But anyway, he's constantly going back to these frameworks of thought. And so immediately I was like, this is perfect for building a custom GPT. These are the simplest agents. They are agents. They're the simplest agents you can build as a custom GPT. They've been around for 2 years. But you can make them do some pretty wild stuff, particularly with the latest models. We have, the ones you can see on the left-hand side are literally used at CloudWorks all the time. We're rolling it out now to 200 people, and we have agents that help us do design, help us do estimation, help us do how to think about Salesforce, and help us how to build other agents. That's all already, that's been live in some capacity for some teams for nearly a year. But in the case of Wolfgang, and you can see we give them all their images and their title, they try to have a bit of personality. I don't know what voice we've got, but let me see. Hey, Wolfgang, are you there, buddy?
Wind. Okay, the user is checking if I'm present and engaged. They're using a friendly tone, so they likely want to see.
Hi, glad to meet you.
Whoa, okay.
I don't think I've used the voice much on this one.
You don't use voice much on Wind? So Wolfgang suddenly gender bended, but that's okay. But we can literally say, what do you know about the AI-driven leader? Let's do the text one. See what comes through.
Write that down if you're interested, but it's not a book about AI. It's a great book, in the sense of, what am I saying?
And in fact, while we're here, so this little bit here, you won't look at me with my bloody stick. This bit here, this is what's called a chain of thought analysis. So this was cool 18 months ago. We had this stuff in the lab, and then we started to put it into the GPTs, where it's basically an internal monologue. The user asked about this, the relevant documentary is this, I'm going to summarize this, and I'm getting ready to say it. Basically, it's OODA. It's observe, orient, decide, act. And by putting that little preamble at the start, even very basic GPT 3.5 models became very, very powerful. You don't need to worry about that. Why? Because now everybody has access to thinking models for free. GPT-5 does this all the time. O3 does it all the time. And most people don't know about it. The whole bit where you can select in the top corner what model they're going to run on is completely wild. And you don't even if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to change the models, just being able to run everything now with automatic thinking, insane. And the fact that very few people are even using ChatGPT, let alone are then using the thinking models, I think is part of the whole point around this thing has moved so quick and we're so far behind.
Yeah, and that's right. So there'll be agents in Salesforce environment in that part of the business, and then you've got other parts of the business that have got in Snowflake, they've got their own, got Salesforce here.
Salesforce and Snowflake are deep friends, boss.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, Gemini and all the rest of it, and them talking to one another and all of that sort of stuff. So that is literally the forefront of what's going on right now. And there's an arms race about, we can make agents here and agents there, which is fantastic by way of productivity, but then how they connect together and the security around that, because that's the biggest one, where I'm kind of working in tech, thought this would be a good idea. Now, one false move and we're up on the front of the Sydney Morning Herald.
It's huge.
That stuff you can't mess around with, and I think that's also scary, but it's also a win thing. It's also something that you can make sure that you've got that level of risk and governance. I mean, we've got a regulator on our board, so anytime we're doing anything, we're kind of going, okay, what's the the guidance here and the policy? We want to be at the forefront, but we also want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves in trouble.
100%, and it's something we're very passionate about. Reliable AI. I absolutely believe we can make them reliable. We do make them reliable. The problem is that it does require more than a passing acquaintance with ChatGPT. And we need to insist on the reliability. Yeah. Right. We need to actually say, cool, you want to make Grok, right? I won't let Grok anywhere near any of my client deployments because it doesn't show any regard for controls and protocols. I mean, I don't mind if you want to use the thing, but I'm not putting that into an enterprise architecture I care about. You know, the people who taught me would throw me out a window if I was doing that sort of thing. So part of it is also the role we have to play in putting pressure on the frontier models. Gemini have turned around and gone, you're right, John, we're going to give you access to a thing called log probabilities. It's a way to basically monitor how surprised the model is. It's really important telemetry we've used, you know, in our labs for 3 years, and they've been talking about turning it off. Why? It doesn't make them money, right? And if nobody fights back and nobody says, no, we care about that, why? It gives me insight into whether or not the model was making it up. So you hear all this stuff about hallucinations. What you don't hear about is like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of math that lets us measure it in real time. Because then people go, well, if there's that, why don't we always turn that on? Because it doesn't make them money. Unless we as informed consumers put pressure on them and go, no, actually I do care about that, thanks. I care about that more than just, you know, how good it is as a sexy chatbot, which is what, of course, it's currently being used for everywhere. If we don't apply that pressure, then we won't get those outcomes, which comes back to the point why I'm trying to get everybody to just use it. I know, I have faith that enough people use it, you will care about its accuracy, its reliability. You'll put that pressure onto those providers, and that will solve some of these issues, you know, that we're all worried about.
It's, unless there's any other questions, it's time to hit the road. Oh, we got one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, you can.
Sorry.
It's all right.
I didn't wanna...
You're also welcome to get up and have drinks. Like, we literally now just like, if you want to have any questions as well, you can come over, we can walk stuff through. But go for it. Go.
It's just a little overwhelming. What is a good place to start?
I honestly think the best thing you can do is go to ChatGPT, which you have for free, and ask it, you know, teach me something. Help me learn how to do something. In fact, let me try and, I'll give you one. This will be ridiculous, but I do this. I really do this all the time because, you know, my life is exciting. Let's try this here. There was a recent paper that was about the use of a hypersphere or hypergraph embedding vector that I think was just being a bit too clever. They were trying to convince me that triples instead of tuples would be more effective in an E5 generative embedding space. I don't really understand what any of those words mean. Can you break it down to me with, you know, analogies like I've only just done year 8 maths?
Absolutely, JC. Let's break it down in a more down-to-earth way. Imagine you're trying to organize a bunch of friends and how they relate to each other. In a simple world, you might just say, okay, I'm going to put each friend on a piece of paper and draw lines between them to show who's connected to whom. That's like using a simple graph with pairs. Now, what they were talking about is instead of just drawing lines between pairs of people, they're saying, hey, let's think in triples. So instead of just saying A is connected to B, you might say A, B, and C are all connected in a little trio. It's like grouping friends into small groups of 3 instead of just pairs. And when they say hypersphere or hypergraph embedding space, that's kind of a fancy way of saying we're going to use a more flexible, multi-dimensional space to arrange all these groups. So it's just like going from a flat piece of paper into a kind of big, roomy 3D space where you can fit these groups more naturally. In short, they're just suggesting a fancier way to organize connections that goes beyond pairs and uses triples in a more spacious layout.
And you can imagine, I've got them on mute, but you can imagine I can interrupt at any time. I can go, okay, I kind of get that, but like, why does triple matter instead of pair? Did anyone wonder that? Anyone wonder, like, but why? Why do I care that it's connected to 3 instead of 2? So you ask that next question. I can go, why would they care about connecting 3 friends instead of just 2 friends? Why is that better or meaningful?
Yeah, great question. So the reason they'd even bother is that sometimes relationships or connections in data or information are just about 2 things relating to each other. They're about groups of things that have to be considered together to make sense. So imagine you have a story where 3 people always do something together. If you only look at pairs, you're missing that bigger picture. But if you look at triples, you can capture the idea that this trio has a special relationship that you wouldn't see if you only looked at them 2 by 2. In practical terms, that can give you a more nuanced understanding of complex data. It's like saying, hey, if we look at these 3 things together, we get a richer story than if we just looked at pairs.
Now, did anyone actually have any difficulty following that explained that way? Do you see what I mean? But what you just learned is actually quite significant. There is a thing called triples. We use them, if you've heard the word knowledge graph. Congratulations, you've just done the introduction to knowledge graph. Every one of you. Everything about that's computationally correct, and it is a huge part of what you see on screen. Triples are what make that graph possible. You all just learned it. Don't tell me it's not completely possible or indeed entertaining. That's free. That's free.
Yeah, and this also still like to come back to the day-to-day 80-20, 20% of the stuff you do results in 80% of, and all of the different ways the 80-20 works. And at the end of the day, all of this sort of still comes back down to, I can free up more time so I can go surfing or play my guitar.
Totally.
Or whatever it is, right?
Totally.
That's kind of like, or how can we rearrange our day? Like you say, why have a calendar? Why? Well, and
Yes.
also in our world of professional services, in time material, and sort of now things are going to be moving towards more productization and throughput and whatnot. So it's really
I've got a
like,
curveball for you.
oh dear.
Do you believe that it's better to work smarter, not harder? Because if you do,
Yeah.
it might be time for us to take smarter way more seriously.
Yeah.
I actually think that you can't, once you're productizing management of your diary, we've all got the same surfing time. The next unlock, be smarter. That's not a comment on your relative level of intelligence. It's a skill, right? And if we don't unlock that at least, if we can't at least look at it and go, this is a product that can help me be smarter, not just it gets me this one outcome. Being smarter about managing time, being smarter about process design, pick whatever it is, that could unlock more time at the beach. But I think even more importantly, what if it unlocks a better reason for you to go to work? What if you have a better work-life relationship because this helps you get the next promotion, or this helps you align what you're doing to where you want to go? The barrier to this type of self-improvement, it's evaporated. I do it in the car, I do it while I'm waiting. I'm not even using the lab anymore, I'm using the product. And that's why I use it as such an approachable example is, show me another piece of technology that you can put in your pocket where you can engage with it for free and you get better. And it's on any topic, where get better doesn't just mean learn about maths, right? Maybe you're passionate about poetry, maybe you're passionate about music. Whatever it is, that's fine. Use it that way, but you are leaving with a net dividend, right? That's what they mean when they say leverage. We've jumped straight to, oh, it'll make work better. Who gives a shit about work, right? What about all the other stuff that it could be making better? And if we understand it there, we'll bring it back to the workplace and go, now I get it. Why am I even doing any of this crap?
Yeah.
GPT, can you just do that for me? And then it usually says, yes, John.
Nice one. Well, I think we've got a rooftop with some food and drink. It would be good to catch up and chat about any of this sort of stuff. And I think really
I'll bring the
appreciate-
laptop up there.
Yeah.
Share some stuff.
Play with the society. And really just thanks so much for coming along, and I'll use online. And looking forward to Adelaide and then Sydney next week.
Absolutely. It's been a great
Wonderful. Thank you.